In my opinion, people are overlooking one of the best anime of the past 2 seasons, Gnosia, and I want to talk about it. Several people, well, perhaps not all of them entirely human, managed to escape from one of the planets on the ship, and now they're refugees looking for a safe planet. However, it turns out they were attacked by Gnosia, parasites that infiltrate a person and seek to destroy humanity. Visually, a person does not change in any way, and it's impossible to identify a Gnosia just by looking. The Gnosia only kill during warps, when time seems to freeze for everyone else. Well, normally the ship should have self-destructed upon detecting a Gnosia signal, but the ship's benevolent AI proposes to vote for the crew member most likely to be a Gnosia, who will then be placed in a cryosleep, where they're harmless even if they really are Gnosia. The anime and the game makes no attempt to conceal this. It states plainly that what follows is the game of Mafia or Werewolf. This is a social deduction game which was created in USSR in 1986, where players are secretly assigned roles, villagers or citizens, and hidden traitors, so Mafia or Werewolves. Each round, players discuss and vote to eliminate suspects, while the traitors secretly try to eliminate villagers. The game ends when either all traitors are caught or they outnumber the villagers. For context, Gnosia released in 2019, after Among Us existed, but well before it became popular, so any resemblance is coincidence rather than imitation. The anime is simply breathtaking and it does a really great job adapting the game. Even so, if you open the fall 2025 season, this series is only 31st in number of viewers and its not very high score doesn't seem to motivate people to watch it much. The anime is produced by Aniplex and made by the studio Domerica, perhaps best known to wider audiences for Romantic Killer. Even so, this series looks gorgeous. So why it's an impossible anime? Gnosia originally was a small game by former Doujin Circle, and one of Aniplex producers liked it so much that he decided to adapt the story into an anime with gorgeous animation and an all-star voice cast. So many stars had to align for this anime to exist at all, and in the end it only ended up 31st in the season, though it's hard to say how popular it really is in Japan. I want to hope that it grows more, otherwise it would be a real shame, because you can tell it is being made with genuine care. And the anime is simply impossible to stop watching, mostly because of how well the writers of both the game and the anime managed to convey an actual gameplay of Mafia through the characters. You have almost certainly played with someone like this in a game of Mafia or Werewolf or Among Us. The serious person who plays to win and acts rationally, but is too boring, so people vote against them from time to time. Trickster who is constantly lying to everyone and messing with people, so nobody can trust them even when they're not Gnosia. The very smart and rational person who talks too much and acts like a show-off, so it is especially satisfying to watch them get voted out over and over. The person who is always silent does not want to participate in this mess, but looks suspicious because of that silence, so people often vote against them too. The person who cannot lie and does not understand game theory, so they mostly get in the team's way when they turn out to be Gnosia. A friendly guy who wants to become a cat, and there is literally a cat sticking out of his neck. A sensible but very naive beluga whale, voiced by Kana Hanazawa. That's only part of the cast. Each of them has their own character and behavioral algorithm that they almost never break out of. This leads to a lot of interesting situations, and the secret to winning is understanding the person and figuring out their algorithm, the way they act as human, as Gnosia, or in different roles. The only truly unrealistic part is that the characters do not interrupt each other or yell at one another. Overall, I hope I have already sold you on this anime and that you will watch at least the first episode. It immediately makes the concept of the series clear, the one I'm still deliberately hiding. Maybe you think, how does this should even work? And the answer is that the story pushes us into a situation where we begin traveling through the time loops, and in each one the ship has different number of survivors and Gnosia. And in each new round of Mafia, the conditions change. The Gnosia are different characters every time, including the protagonist. It is one of the most interesting uses of time loops I have ever seen, because usually we expect everything to stay the same when the story resets to the beginning. For example, if character X is a Gnosia in one loop, we expect that to remain true in the other loops, but no. In Gnosia, the loops affect even the past, so each time, starting from day 1, different people turn out to be Gnosia. This affects other things too, such as how the characters relate to you. In the anime, this is shown by the fact that in one loop, one of the girls confesses her love to you, even though in other loops she treats you neutrally. That's why they brought in Juki Hanada, one of the most famous anime screenwriters, whom many people know first and foremost for Steins Gate. And that's exactly why he was invited onto this anime. They needed someone capable of translating the game's time loop idea into a serious format. I absolutely love the way time loops work in the story. It even goes as far as carrying over the gender choice from the game into the anime. In one of the anime loops, the main character wakes up as a girl, and that lets her access an event that the male version could never have seen. I also really want to mention the opening. It's gorgeous both visually and musically, so if you are still not sure, at least check the opening out. It is done by Mason Des, a music project built around bringing together artists who probably would never collaborate. In Gnosia's case, that means Giga and Deloitte as producers, with vocals by Indonesian VTuber Kobo Kanairu and the virtual singer Kasane Teto. The song is called Baki no Kawa, which means disguise, or more literally, wolf's skin. It becomes even better when you consider that VTubers are real people pretending to be anime characters, while Teta is a robot wearing human skin. In the full version on the MySundesk channel, they even use game style designs for Kobo and Teto, which gives it even more charm. It's almost a little disappointing that the anime went with something more modern instead of doing something similar. Maybe the designs were part of what put some viewers off. But that's not all. After the anime, I decided to start playing Gnosia, and it's just wow. Just like the anime, it's impossible to put down. After every round you think one more and I'm done for today. And then repeat that 20 more times because you simply cannot stop playing. In short, the game is 10 out of 10. Good thing they made an anime out of it, otherwise I would probably never would have learned about the game at all. It's a fantastic experience. If you got hooked on an Among Us or similar games back in 2020, this game is basically perfect for you, especially because you don't need friends for it, which is very probable if you watch anime, and you can keep playing as the killer or Gnosia in this case all the time. The premise is obviously the same as in the anime. There is a refugee ship fleeing a planet infected by Gnosia. There are 5 to 15 people aboard trying to survive, but 1 to 6 Gnosia sleep in with them, and you have to identify and eliminate them through voting, just like in Mafia. The game works roughly like any round of Mafia or Werewolf, with its own strengths and weaknesses. You often will not have any real clues until someone does something suspicious, so sometimes the best strategy is to ask the role claimants to speak up and then listen to what everyone else wants to say. Another important part of the game is the roles. On the ship there is an engineer who can check suspicious people to see whether they are Gnosia, a doctor who examines the people who were sent into a cold sleep, and a guardian angel who can protect others from the Gnosia's night attacks. There are also the guard duty members who are 100% human because they never left the ship and therefore could not have become Gnosia. There are two more roles as well, but those are better discovered while playing. The roles aspect in Gnosia have a lot of nuances. For example, in almost every round, the Gnosia will pretend to be the engineer or the doctor in order to deceive everyone else. I think a lot of people do not want to start with the anime or the game because they see the description and think, an anime based on Among Us? That's probably going to be garbage. Which is fair, because the appeal of social deduction games is that you are playing against real people who constantly create unexpected situations. And that's where Gnosia reveals its greatest strengths. The character's excellent AI, built by people who very clearly played a lot of Werewolf and its many variations. People often say it is hard to make an AI that constantly wins, but that's not really a problem. It's much harder to make an AI that holds back in a way that still makes it fun to play against. That's the real trick. And I think the programmer, who was also writing the script at the same time, really pulled it off. Each character has their own behavior pattern depending on whether they're crew or Gnosia. They relate to other characters differently, take previous statements into account, and vote with the actual intent without hesitating to send you into a cold sleep. Sometimes you will lose, you will get voted out, and the Gnosia will kill you at night, just like in real Mafia or Werewolf. But that's also what makes it even more addictive, because you immediately want to start again and get your revenge. So the game often turns out into a social simulator, where the important thing is not turning everyone against you. Talking too much during the meeting? Then you're obviously trying to manipulate us, off to cold sleep. You talk too little? It's crystal clear, you're Gnosia trying to avoid suspicion. Cold sleep. You know who the Gnosia is, but cannot prove it. You can already guess where that gets you. Cold sleep. Still, the AI is not stupid here either. If you make a solid arguments and direct your accusations at actual Gnosia, there is a high chance they will make you their priority target at night. They have their own logic too. As a rule, they usually try to kill the guard duty members first, because those people are trusted the most, but they may come for you as well. The characters also have hidden parameters. Some act in a strictly logical way and respond only to arguments. Others care more about emotions and are more willing to believe people they trust. Honestly, there are life lessons in this too, because apparently even video games have decided to mock human society properly. No matter how smart your arguments are, if nobody likes you, you're most likely to get sent into a cold sleep or get killed. So if you want to survive, logic alone is not enough. You have to build relationships with the other characters. That's why, even though using the doubt button against people you believe are Gnosia seems perfectly logical, direct accusations usually end up making you look more suspicious instead. It is much more effective to build relationships and avoid charging in head first. This has even become a meme in the community. One of these characters is often right, but still end up in cold sleep with high probability because they just talk too much. Another example is that the game has characters with such strong stats that suspecting them is almost pointless. They can easily retaliate and send people who suspect them into a cold sleep instead. But because of that, they build up hate, and after a few situations like that, they eventually get sent into cold sleep too. If they are Gnosia and your crew, fighting them feels like taking on a raid boss. I can talk about the mechanical details for ages. What matters to me is showing how good is AI here, with each character having a personality and behavior pattern you need to take into account if you want to win. I have already mentioned the stats, and in some sense, Gnosia is a roguelite. Between loops, you level up on your own, and with those level, your stats go up too, which directly affects the gameplay. Some stats are more useful than others. For example, one of them makes people pay less attention to what you say during debates. Another lowers the chance that the Gnosia will choose you as their target at night. These stats help you survive, because even if you're right, you can still get voted into cold sleep or killed at night. That's why they're most useful ones. The longer you stay alive, the more experience you earn, which matters a lot in the long run. Another important mechanic is the ability to spot lies and to lie convincingly yourself. Sometimes you directly see a character is lying, and that immediately makes them the main Gnosia suspect. Other times you have to lie yourself, and the important thing is not getting caught. So there are several different ways to play depending on what you enjoy doing more. Most of the gameplay is made up of loops that last 5 to 7 minutes, and between discussion rounds you can talk to the characters. Sometimes those conversations lead to events with unique scenes. Collecting them can be seen as one of the key parts of the game. And this is where the part begins that annoys a lot of players, me included. The conditions for getting some of these events are horribly specific. They can take dozens of loops, and often it comes down to pure luck. Sometimes you need both yourself and a specific character to survive until the end. And the problem is that either of you can get killed at night or sent into a cold sleep, and then you have to start a new loop. In the end, I spent about 3 hours collecting the last few events, even though the whole story takes roughly 15 hours. The game itself, meanwhile, can be played endlessly. But at that point, the game becomes too repetitive. There is a post-game mechanic for save scamming that lets you jump back to any point in a loop so you can save yourself or the character you need, and I would have liked to use it during the last hours. In any case, it is painful to imagine people playing this game at launch, back when there were no guides and a lot of things were still unclear. That includes how to get the true ending. Without it, it would be easy to decide the game is finished and walk away without getting the full catharsis. But the story, it's so good. The best thing about both the game and the anime is that the plot was written by a very intelligent person who accounted for a huge number of details and created one of the most carefully thought out stories I have ever seen. So then, should you watch the anime or play the game? I recommend to start with the game. The anime as an adaptation feels even better after playing the game. The amount of care that went into the adaptation and the way they translated the mechanics and events is just fantastic. Once you understand the internal logic of what's happening, following the series becomes even more interesting, because you can solve events in advance from the signs that foreshadow them. The loops in the anime almost never repeat the game's loops apart from the beginning, so there is no need to worry that watching the anime will teach you how to win specific rounds, or the other way around. Somewhere after the loop 20 in the game, almost everything becomes fully randomized. The story elements work in both versions, but in the anime they are often presented even better. The game is limited by the visual novel format with text and CGs, while the anime gets expanded scenes or even anime regional episodes. So even after the anime, I'm sure the game is still worth playing. I myself started playing after episode 14, and aside from couple familiar surprises, I enjoyed both the game and then the anime even more. Considering the earlier episodes, adaptation is doing superb job, and the ending is top tier as well. Gnosia also keeps reminding you that it is science fiction, and it does so through vivid and interesting examples. Most of the characters here are not Earthlings, but inhabitants of other planets, and the game includes sentient AIs and even animals. One of the most important themes in Gnosia, in my opinion, is the question, what is a human? Which the characters keep asking themselves throughout the story. Some of them are kind by nature, so becoming Gnosia makes them deeply uncomfortable. One of the questions that torments them is, am I still human, or am I already something else? The same applies to other characters as well. For example, there is a robot character on the ship who sees themselves as a lesser being. The player characters comforts them by pointing out that across many loops they become Gnosia and try to kill us, which means that in our eyes they're just as human as anyone else. A similar question is asked by Atome, the beluga whale who was experimented on. Does she belong to humanity if she's a sentient animal? And the game keeps answering again and again, of course you're a part of humanity, Atome, by making her Gnosia. At the same time, Atome is sad because she does not know whether she can really be considered a human. Because of her high intelligence, she identifies with humans and wants to become one, but she cannot. You could write that off as a coincidence, but there is a character called Chippy who grew up on a planet full of cats. He dreams of becoming a cat himself and undergoes a process of felinification, merging with an animal to make transferring into a new body easier. It reads quite clearly as an allusion to trans people and transhumanism. I think some people probably dropped the anime within its first few minutes when a character named Setsu who looks like a woman and people address them as a girl, but they correct this person by saying that they are not a girl. Because of their military service, they had to undergo panification. In the world of Gnosia, it's an operation to lose their own biological sex. Something similar applies to Rakio, who immediately state that they don't have a gender. Rakio also points out that the secondary sex characteristics do not determine gender. Overall, Gnosia is an excellent anime and game, and I really hope you give the anime a try at the very least. Even so, I strongly recommend playing the game as well. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.